Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening, Aarya. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, great. Okay. I'm actually doing this on my way to Bangalore right now.
Oh,
All right,
nice.
great.
Nice.
Yeah. Could
Are
you
you driving? No, you're not
put
driving.
down your Aarya?
Uh, your voice is not very clear.
Okay. Let me try putting my video off sometime.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Is my voice coming across fine?
This is better. This is better.
It's better, right? All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to keep alternative, keep the video off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Aarya, I think you can share your slide. I've just giving you access. Yeah, try sharing it now.
1 second, sir.
Yeah.
Second. So is my screen, my slide visible?
Yes, I can see your slide. I can see the frog hopping out of the slide.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you can just run through the slides just to see if there's any lag.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Seems good. Seems good.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. Some of the transitions may take some time, so
Yeah.
nevertheless, if at all you get stuck in between, you can just stop and do that again. That
Yeah.
should be good. All
Yeah.
right. Great.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Um, can I keep my video off because I think I don't. I think it would quality would be better if I would keep my video off. If that's okay. Would you
Uh,
want me to leave it on?
yeah, it will be better with the video on, Alia, because I mean, if students are listening to the session, right? So they
Hmm.
would. I mean, try it on for some time. Let's see how is the relay.
Okay. 1 second. Okay.
Okay.
So
Let me just spotlight for everybody. Yeah, I think it's fairly good because
it's yeah.
yeah, because if
Okay.
your connection was weak, I would see a pixelated version of you there.
Okay. So it's clear. My face is clear, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. All right.
All right. So, how was college today? You had World Health Day. So, what did you all do there?
Yeah, so not much actually. They were having a free BP glucose checkup and
Okay.
carbon monoxide this one levels checkup the for patients basically, and then they had the NSS walkathon and
Mhm.
just things like that. That's it. Nothing much. Nothing too nothing on a grand scale. Yeah. Yeah.
We have a Priya who's already joined in.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know Priya?
Yes, she is a
Is it one of
professor.
the students? Hi, Priya.
No, 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 she's not a student. She's an oral path professor at
Oh,
VS
is it?
Dental
Oh,
College.
great, great. Hi,
Yeah.
Priya. She's
Hi.
there. She's there. Yeah, hello, Dr. Priya. Uh,
Hi.
so your Norpath staff, is it at KLE?
Yeah.
Not Kaylee, she's at VS.
At
Professor
Oh,
VS.
at VS.
yes. Arya still doesn't get over VS, right? That's a problem. She's still there throughout. So it's hard
Yeah.
to take her out of VS and tell her that she's joined KLE right now. And you know,
So,
I hope she doesn't run back in the lunch hour there.
no, no. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I do miss VS. It's been there for a long time. So, yeah.
So how's the new job? How's the new beginning going?
It's good.
Arya,
It's good.
like
It's
that?
interesting, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
liking it. Yeah. Finally getting to do something that I've always wanted to do.
Mm, good, good. Yeah. So how are you, new bunch of students? Have you taken classes yet, or
Yeah, I have. In fact, I've taken a few classes. I think it's going to take some more time for them to actually get used to me and for me to get used to them. Like I said, it's a change. So, yeah. But it's nice. I mean, it's been pretty interesting. And they have quite a few fun scientific events as well and KLE. And yeah, so I've had the opportunity of helping a few students here and there. So that's good. That's
yeah,
yeah.
because life during post graduation, you don't really know which direction the gravity is going.
Yeah.
Things sort of settle down after you get into a college as a staff, and then yeah, it's pretty much predictable.
Yeah.
So
After that.
I mean, your department is I mean, it's got really nice people. Like there's one ma'am from Davangere.
Yeah.
She
Dr. Shruti. Dr.
Shruti ma'am,
Shruti.
yeah. So
Yes.
Shruti Ishwar ma'am, she was there last time. She had come as an examiner here, and she is from Davangere. And then, of course, Vipin sir has also got his connections here. He did his
Yeah.
MG here.
Yeah.
And, of course, Srivastava sir. So,
Yeah. It's just four of us. So it's a
all right.
small party.
Hmm, okay. So, I think we'll just wait for a couple of more minutes because students are just joining in now. So,
Sure,
is that
sure.
okay?
Yeah, sure.
All right,
Sure.
great. So, quickly, guys, those who just joined in, I hope I'm really sorry for the, the connections because I'm actually traveling right now all the way. I had to rush to Bangalore, so I'm on the way, but I'm enjoying this session as well here. So before I quickly go in and give you a quick introduction about today's speaker. So I think we'll just wait for a couple of minutes and then we'll start it off. Yeah, I just stopped sharing for a bit. So quickly, guys, if you could please use the chat box and let us know for which college, which year we all are currently studying in. It will be helpful for us to have an interaction here at PhD 101. So since it's a mixed cohort, we do have a lot of UGs and PGs and everyone. So please to put in the chat box uh, which college, which year you all belong to, and we could probably have a fruitful discussion at the end of the session today. Now, as all of you are already aware of this, today is the 7th of April, the World Health Day, and the theme for today happens to be building a fairer and a healthier world. Now, given the onset, since we've been living in the post-COVID era, that is the pandemic age, I think we are in many ways fortunate to have survived through this, and the battle continues. But then what really brings to the brim is on account of this World Health Day, what is really highlighted is the disparities and the inequalities which have increased phenomenally over the last few years. Now, this has happened over the last 1 year in more ways than one, simply because the economic impact of the COVID situation, along with the various other deleterious effects, has brought about the divide between the haves and the have-nots to a greater extent. And we, as public health professionals, we have noticed this all the more, which is evident. Now, even though we've quickly gotten back to work and things have been sort of coming back to normal again, the mutant variation or the second wave of COVID, which is again not to be really create a panic situation, but then all of you need to practice your guidelines. Dentistry itself has gone into an altogether different dimension post the COVID situation. So I think all of you would have been part of various activities today, probably not with the usual amount of outreach activities which would have otherwise been on any given World Health Day celebration. But then whatever said and done, I think we need to keep ourselves connected and actually work with each other to bring out the best out of the given situation. And the history of pandemics actually tells us that what really survives at the end of it has sustained through various highs and lows. So, with that brief background on today's special occasion, I'd like to invite Dr. Aarya Bharadwaj onto PhD 101 special webinar series. Now, these webinar series for the students who just joined in today would be returning this, happen to be following this because we conduct these academic sessions on every Wednesday, which is an academic topic. So it's like a quick, rapid revision for all of y'all. So it should be really helpful for y'all to recapitulate and go through this. So it's like a quick 45 minutes session where you can go in detail and then get the insights from various faculty members across the country. So I'm really happy to introduce someone who I look as one of the real flag bearers of public health dentistry, who is about to take this forward. So I welcome Dr. Aarya Bharadwaj to the session today. A little bit about Dr. Aarya. Dr. Aarya completed her master's in public health dentistry from VS Dental College, Bangalore. Also is a student of VSDC throughout her BDS as well. She's someone who is known to many of us as the gold medalist in the present batch. We just completed that. But apart from all of these things, she is a very experienced team leader, and she's been part of various school health programs for the last 3 years at various schools in Bangalore as well. Now, she's also conducted over 50 outreach programs and has also worked as a resident doctor at the Sri uh, Gandhada Kavalu Rural Dental Center. And she's also had experience working as a resident doctor in the Dental Health Center at the Shantinagar BPMP Hospital. Now, there are many activities which she's really interested in live interactions and then distribution of various IEC materials. So she's someone who takes community in her own designated form, shape, and form, and has joined in here with us to share her knowledge regarding the topic today, which is social sciences and dentistry. Now, a little bit about Arya's way of skills and how she brings about is she wants to give a special emphasis on preventive dentistry. And if I have the liberty to quote Arya herself, as she says it, that prevention is not better than cure, but sir, it is the only cure. So that's how she'd like to put it and say this. So with that little bit of introduction, I welcome you, Dr. Arya, to today's session of social sciences and dentistry. I think we have a lot of students who've just joined in from various colleges. So welcome to everybody. I think it's over to you, Arya.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much, sir, for those extremely kind words. And yes, a very happy World Health Day to everybody here, if we can say that. Just share my screen.
Yes, please.
Yes, is my screen
Okay.
visible?
Yeah, Arya. I think you can shoot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. Sure, thank you very much. So, good evening. This is correctly in the middle of the week. It's a Wednesday evening. So, all of us would be at, different levels. Some of us are like, yeah, half week done. Then some of us are like, oh my God, there's another 3 more days to go. And just 2 more days. And then when is the weekend coming and things like that. But anyway, good evening to whichever mood all of us are in. And today's topic for discussion is social sciences and dentistry. Now, social sciences is one subject all of us studied in school. Social studies is what we called it. Depending on whichever curriculum you studied in, you would have had different names. But this is something all of us have come across at our school level, and many of us would be like, "Oh my God, why are we studying this again now?" But the truth is, this is a very important aspect um, of our lives, not just irrespective of the fact that we are in the medical profession, the paramedical profession. The social sciences aspect plays a huge role in today's world where there's so much of uh, injustice and so much of differences between people, and the fact that the world's just not nice anymore. It's personal, but in today's situation, this is very much needed, is what I would say. So I'm going to be talking about social sciences and dentistry, and I'm going to be doing it under the following contents. We're going to give you an introduction, and then we're going to move to medicine in the social context. Why do we need to read about social sciences even today? What are social sciences, specifically focusing on sociology, different aspects of the society, societal aspects, family, culture. Along with that, I'll be speaking about a few cultural practices, dental myths and taboos, and what impact does culture have on health and oral health. After this, I'm just going to be giving you a brief idea about social stratification in oral health, and we're going to be concluding. Please feel free to drop any questions that you have or anything else you want to say in the chat box. So before we start, way back, there was a time when people used to believe that uh, disease was a result of, supernatural causes, and the fact that the gods were angry with humans, and that was the result of disease. The result of that was disease, and if you um, worshipped or pleased the gods, you would be cured of the disease. Eventually, we saw once the microscope came into existence, and the fact that they were able to identify microorganisms. They were able to pinpoint, and say it was these microorganisms that caused diseases. And once you got rid of the microorganisms, depending on your treatment, you would get rid of the infection and you would be healthy again. Eventually, we moved to different theories, the epidemiological triad, where then it not only focused on germs entering your body, but also a little about your the host's characteristics, giving a little more emphasis on the environment around you, saying the environment also has a role to play. Eventually, we move to different. We have your natural history of disease, where it's a interaction between so many aspects, and it takes in disease takes a period of it occurs over a period of time. Finally, when we have this spider's web, which is the web of causation. So through this um, diagram on the screen, you basically get an idea that there's not just one single cause for a disease. There are a whole lot of factors that come into play, many of which are your social factors or your societal factors or your cultural factors, which vary from person to person and from areas. So we know that the environment we live in influence our lives and our health. So basically, you have your physical environment, which is the non-living components around you. You have your biological component, which is the living organisms around you. But it's not just these two. It's the social environment that also comes into play, which has a significant influence on the well-being of people. So it's basically a complex of various psychosocial factors which influence our health. We can say that the effect of your social environment is reflected in the fact that there are different disease patterns across the world. What is extremely prevalent in one country may not even be something that's causing any concern in another disease. This is with regard to disease pattern. Let's talk about something close home. The change in your social environment, that is with this pandemic. All of us we've been in a classroom. All of us have gone through the whole idea of online classes. So this was a change in your social environment from offline to online. And we know how much of a difference there was, not only with regard to teaching and learning, how much it impacted your life. Many of us may have developed a whole lot of headache because of online classes. We might have become much more lazier because of these online classes. So any change in your environment, in your social environment, would also reflect in a change in your health and well-being. Health, we cannot be isolated from a social context. Even when you see the determinants of health, these are what influence your health and disease. You have your societies, which forms a huge part, your environment, the socio-economic status, your socio-cultural practices. All of these will influence health. That is evident. So this model shows that for any health outcome, you have various predisposing factors. It depends on the current circumstance you're in, your individual predispositions, that is, if you are at risk of developing a disease, your ecological predispositions, and the situation on its own. So these in turn are actually being influenced by a whole lot of social and structural factors, and these are what may bring about a change in these predisposing factors, which affect your raw health. You look at this is the epidemiological triad of dental caries. So all of us would have gone through this at some point of time. You have your socioeconomic status there that's highlighted. Why? You talk about the epidemiological triad when you're describing, when you're talking about periodontal disease. You have your education, your socioeconomic status, your cultural factors there. Similarly, if you were to look at the in the epidemiology of oral cancer, you're still going to find so many your socioeconomic status, education, occupation, lifestyle. So all of these are significantly impacting not only your overall general disease, but specific oral diseases as well. So when we talk about curing these conditions, and I'm speaking in the complete downstream approach. When we talk about curing, there's no point in going ahead with your treatment if you're not able to identify any of these factors, because the patient is invariably going to come back, and we wouldn't want that. So, when we talk about social sciences, it's all about how your society works. So, there are several disciplines. It's called social sciences. So, it's just not one. You have your sociology, cultural anthropology, your social psychology, economics, and political science. Yeah, it's anyone who looks at it without any specific thoughts, or just randomly like that, would say this is nothing but social studies, and this is what we've already studied. Of course, anthropology is a new word, and you wouldn't have delved too much into psychology, but yeah. But that's the thing. It's how all of these actually impact our health and well-being, and why we as health professionals, dentists particularly, need to know about this. And that's what I'm going to be talking. So we'll start first with sociology. Sociology is the study of how your society is organized and how we experience life. Yeah, I'm sure many people are just going to roll their eyes and say, oh no, not this again. But please bear with me, it's going to be interesting. It basically tells you, it gives you insights to different forms of relationship that we make in a society. It could be formal, it could be informal. And these relationships form the fabric of society. So you have small scale relationships, probably between two individuals or two families, two large scale relationships, which is between different organizations, between two large groups of people. And this is the totality of your society itself. So there's a branch of sociology which concerns us, which is referred to as medical sociology. And this basically focuses on the relationship between different social factors and your health, and how we can apply the whole concept of sociology into to answer questions which are related to our health and healthcare systems. So why do we need this? Sociological methods and sociological explanations would help us evaluate the macro components of your society, which could be income, which could be your education, occupation, your standard of living, all of these, and how it would affect the health of the population. It also gives us an idea as to why is there a difference in health. This difference in the health could be related to the fact that there's a difference in the income level, or there's a difference in the occupation. Some people have a better occupation, and they have a much higher income and are able to afford better health care, while some people can't. So this inequality in health is explored by we can explore this by different sociological approaches. It also explains a little more about different mechanisms and processes which come into play in order to sustain these inequalities. The fact of the matter is there are inequalities, but it also tells us why is it persistent. Why can't we just wake up one day and say everybody is equal and everything is equal? We can't do that, and this will show us why does it still persist and exist, and why can't we remove it completely effectively just with the snap of your finger. It also tells us about different mechanisms which lead to long-term changes in with the idea and focus that there could be a reduction in these health inequalities. So while we talk about sociology, there are concepts that we deal with. The first is the fact that you as an individual are a part of your family. Now, your family is a small unit. The family, many families together are a part of the community, and and many communities together form your society. So it's basically anything that you do would not only impact your family, but could also impact your community and your society. So coming to the society, so there is a difference when we see these two pictures. Both are both have a whole lot of people standing together. But what makes the pictures different is that the first picture, the horizontal one, is a group of people who are standing together. But if you notice, all of them have a tag. That means either they belong to a similar organization, or they are there gathered together for a particular function, or there is something that's common between all. But if you were to look at the picture to the right, to your right, yeah. So the picture to the right would basically is a picture of the stadium where people have just gathered together. So there's a difference. The picture on the left is a society. Picture on the right is a crowd. The main difference is that between the crowd and the society is the crowd lacks structure and is not organized, whereas the society is. So, a society can be defined as a system of uses and procedures of authority and mutual aid by many groups, coupled with division of control of human behavior and liberty. So, basically, there are certain features for us to refer to a group of people as a society. It needs to have a particular system in place. That is a system between the social relationships between people. There are certain laws and customs which are there in a society, and these control and regulate the behavior of people. You can't come in, say what you want and do what you want and leave. It's A society is dynamic. There can be changes that are occurring within the society over place and time. And the society can influence and is influenced by the health of the public. So when we go back, we all know that initially began as hunter gatherers years ago before agriculture was even in picture. And then once man learned to cultivate and began settling down, there was no turning back after that, and this is where we are. So similarly, as there are changes in our society, these changes, this is basically a group of people, who used to wander, who then chose to settle down, and look how far we've come. So while there are changes in your society, these changes have also resulted in changes in dental diseases. Now, if we are speaking about the changes in the oral cavity, say with regard to dental caries, in pre-agricultural times, so skulls of people belonging to pre-agricultural times have shown that they've almost had an intact dentition, and the only pathology that was seen in most of the teeth was severe attrition. Of course, they ate raw meat. There was no cooking. And uh, caries was not even existent at that point of time. So once man began to settle down and civilizations began, they noticed that there was a change in the occlusal wear planes. From being low angled, they had much steeper angles. So times when you come to the medieval era, that's where we actually saw the rise in dental caries. So this must have been in the mid, say, from the 13th century, 12th century onwards. This is where we saw a rise in dental caries. But the presence of dental caries was only limited to royal and aristocratic families. Why? Because they were able to afford refined sugar or any other sucrose, basically. In fact, in those times, if you flashed a smile and your smile was black in color, that is, if you had caries, you were considered to belong to a much higher socioeconomic strata. Everyone would have been like, "Oh my God, that's a royal person," because you can afford to have dental caries because you're able to afford the food that caused dental caries. However, with the advent of your industrial era, there was an increase in consumption, increase in production of refined sugars. Common man was able to afford it and thus increase the incidence and prevalence of caries. However, during the World War II, there was a shortage of rations and supplies all over the world, and refined sugars were not available as much as before. And there was a decrease in dental caries that was observed. However, it increased post that, and in the last 2-3 decades in the Western world, there has been a decrease. This could be attributed to the widespread use of fluoridated dentifrices along with water fluoridation and many other uh, systemic fluoridation methods. So, as our society is changed, we can notice that even this is an example of dental disease. Health has many more examples, and that has undergone changes completely, which shows that your health, your well-being is dependent on the society and various other social factors. So there are two terms here, that is your social structure and social organization. Now, social structure is basically the pattern of interrelations between groups. So that is, it includes your major institutions, groups, your people in power, status hierarchy, and so on. Whereas your social organization is those relationships between and among individuals within social groups. Okay. So, apart from these, we have certain societal aspects that we need to know about. These could be structural aspects of your society and functional aspects of your society. All of these, in their own way, affect and influence health and well being. So, under your structural aspects, you have your social institutions, communities, and associations. Under your functional aspects, you have your social norms, which are folkways, mores, and taboos. We'll be discussing that. Different customs and habits, etiquettes and convention, and your social values. So the first one are social institutions. These are basically interrelated systems of different social rules and norms. It's organized around the satisfaction of an important social need or social function. So there are five main social institutions that are recognized. First one is your family. It's a group of people who live together, who eat from the same kitchen. Your education system, your religion and religious practices, the economics, and the government. The next one is your community. Now, your community is say a little is slightly bigger than your family. So these are groups which live together in such a way that the members do not have any specific interest. They don't share any specific interest, but they share the basic conditions of a common life. So you may be living. Take your housing society for example. Now, there is no guarantee that everybody living there need to have same interests or need to have the same likes and dislikes, but the conditions that they are living in your environmental conditions that they are living in is more or less the same as that of a common life. Uh, these communities are important. It's basically a social group, usually determined by its geographic boundaries, common values, or interests. The members are known to each other, you interact with each other, and it functions in a particular social structure. So it has its own norms, values, different social institutions, and the individual belongs to the broader society through his family and then his community. So this is the definition of the term community. You then have associations which are next. So these are groups of people. It doesn't matter which community you belong to, or there may be communities who are a part of an association together. So these people basically are together for a specific purpose, or it could be for few purposes. But these purposes are based on a utilitarian interest. That means they are together to for a particular in order to complete a particular task or for a set purpose, or they have a list of things that their aims and objectives, their vision, their mission, which they intend to complete. Coming to the functional aspects of your society, you have your social norms. Now, social norms are rules. They are used by a particular group of people that is in the society. And these rules tell you what is appropriate and inappropriate values, beliefs, attitude, and behavior. Now, this can change from society to society. So, these are rules. And there are three types of social norms um, uh, that include your folkways, modes, and taboos. So folkways are basically norms, so social norms, which stems from and organizes casual interactions. So basically, it's like waiting in line. So there's no set rule that you have to, but it's common courtesy to wait in line. Or if you're talking in a group, and if you have to say something, rather than interrupting, which is rude, you can raise your hand and speak. Now, just because you interrupt does not mean you're going to be thrown out. But the fact is, people are going to look down upon you saying, what is this person? Does this person have no social sense? So, these are examples of folkways. So, basically, it's just casual interactions, and not sticking to it, not sticking to this particular norm would not result in you being thrown out from your society. The next one is mores. These are norms which structures the difference between right and wrong. So this is like one step up from folkway. Example for this is in many countries, in many cultures, uh, there is they prohibit cohabitation with a romantic partner before marriage. It's looked down upon because marriage is considered universal. And if you were to do it, then your society would have a whole lot of things to say. It's not, they would not forgive you as easily they would have forgiven someone who refused to wait in line. But it's not as severe. And um, one would hope that they don't take it to law. Another example of this is appropriate dressing. Now, if, for example, you're attending a funeral, one would expect people either to wear black or white clothing, depending on your culture, or to at least dress solemnly. Now, wearing flashy colored clothes and going is not considered appropriate because, but again, it does not mean you're going to be thrown into jail. But the fact is, people are not going to forgive you that easily, as your society would not forgive you that easily as it would for any other purpose. The third one is your taboo. Taboos are strong negative norms, and violating this would result in extreme disgust. There are a whole lot of taboos that are associated with general health, with oral health, and some of which are going to be discussed later. And then you have the law. So, this law is what is firmly inscribed at your state and federal level. Then you have your customs. So customs are slightly different. So these are practices which have been followed by generations together, and we still do it now. But we do it only because it's being done from so many generations, not because we want to do it, or not because so if you we are not even in a position to say no, because well, it's been followed for so many years and we have to. So these are obligations. And an example of this is now, we know sticky food, sweet sticky food, results in dental caries, or if there's if the food has not been cleared from the oral cavity, it could result in gingivitis. But even then, so many times we still continue to consume sweet sticky food. That is because, let's say, it's been tradition to have make a particular sweet that's rich in refined sugars, and you have to eat it for that particular tradition. So you also know what is its impact, but then it's being done for so many years, so you continue doing it. So it's basically an obligation. An example of this is, in African Americans, the mother's diet during pregnancy is is believed to be the cause for soft teeth or dental caries in the child. And they believe in self extraction as a common method to relieve tooth pain rather than going to a dentist. And this is not because they know otherwise, but or they don't know otherwise, but this is basically because it's just been followed from so many generations, so people continue to do. In the Chinese, the teeth are still even today considered as odds and ends of the bone. So we have the yin yang, that is traditional Chinese medicine, that says, your whole body is a health is a balance between yin and yang. And they say that if you have loose teeth, it's due to the imbalance between these, but this imbalance is happening in the kidney. Why? Because the kidney nourishes the bone marrow, and that is what supplies and keeps your bones healthy, and your teeth are the odds and ends of your bone. So it's not that they don't know, uh, or they would not be aware, but the fact is, irrespective of whether you're aware or not, you continue these practices. Then you have habits. So habits are is basically a routine. It's a behavior which is repeated regularly. It is usually subconscious, and you tend to do it without directly thinking on about what you're doing. An example of this is uh, consumption of sugary food, smoking. It need not always be negative. Even subconsciously getting up and brushing your teeth twice a day, it's something that you've been doing over a period of time. So you tend to do it mechanically, it becomes repetitive, and you stop paying too much attention. So it's more like clockwork that you end up doing it. So these are habits. It's a personal choice. You have etiquette and conventions. So etiquette are basically codes which govern expectations of a social behavior. And this is always in accordance to whatever is the contemporary conventional norm in that society. So now, ever since the COVID, your hand hygiene and your etiquette has become much more, has come into spotlight. Uh, Cover your nose when you sneeze or cough, wear a mask, and all of that. Conventions, however, they're basically agreed, stipulated, or accepted standards, norms, and criteria. It takes form of a custom. There is no set writing that this is a custom. Neither is it completely adopted by the society, but it's what is understood. So if you were to meet somebody, you would put your hand out to shake their hands or in some form of a greeting. Or if you were to again get back and stand in line, one line moving in a particular direction. So all of these come down as conventions. Then you have your social values. So social values are basically standards of judgment. So this is how you judge and value things as good or bad. For example, all men are equal. There is you want to be. I mean, we there is no difference between men and women. We need gender equality. Or, for example, in the picture to the right, there is a lady helping the man. So she is doing nothing but carrying it, but carrying, say, vegetables or helping him. But the idea, the value that is there is she's choosing to help him. So what she's doing may not make fall into some social norm, but the value behind it is your social value. For example, on say, Independence Day, everybody hoists the flag. Now, what you're doing is you're just hoisting the flag. The value behind doing it is to show your patriotism or your respect. So that is what refers to social as social values. You have your families next. So we dealt with the society, we spoke about the community. Now we are coming towards the core. So now we're going to be talking about your family. It is the primary unit in all societies. So it's basically a group of biologically related human beings or individuals who live together and eat from a common kitchen. Now, a lot of times, families confused with households. Family and households more or less refer to the same thing, but there's one difference. A household could include people belonging to the same extended family who need not be living together. The fact of the matter that they're eating from a common kitchen shows that they're living together, and that's what separates your family and household. So families are biological units because family members share the same pool of genes. It's a social unit because family members share a common physical and social environment. Everyone's living is brought up and survives in the same environment. It's also considered to be because it's a cultural unit because it reflects the culture of the wider society that you form a part of, and it's an epidemiological unit when we are studying, and it's also one unit when we talk about the provision of social services and comprehensive medical care, because everyone's living together under one roof and there are a whole lot of similarities between them. There are types of families that you need to know. The first one is a nuclear family. I'm sure all of this is just going to be like a repetition of what we've studied long ago, and many of you may be like, we already know this, but yeah, so just to freshen up, your nuclear family is what consists of a married couple and their children, only up till the children are going to be moving out. So once they are on their own, it's not a nuclear family anymore. But because it's just the parents and their children, there is higher responsibility of child rearing on the parents. There's a term called new families that's been introduced, and this includes all the families that have been living together for less than 10 years. Then you have your joint family. So this is where there are a number of married couples and their children who are living together in the same household. They are usually related on the by the men. Men may be siblings, and the wives are uh, married and they live together. All the property is held in a common family purse, so everybody contributes to it, and money is taken from there to meet the expenditures. The authority of a joint family is usually a senior male member, and his wife, that is the senior female member, tends to enjoy authority over the female members of the family. This is in a very idealistic situation. And the focus here is familial relations over marital relations. The third type is a three generation family, and this is what we often get confused between. A three generation family are those households with representatives of all three generations. So if you are living with your grandparents and parents, you belong to a three generation family because it's just three generations of people living together, but it's like one married couple of each generation and the children. When you have more than one married couple staying together or belonging to the same generation, it becomes a joint family. All of these matter because when you are speaking about delivery of care, even if it includes the amount of attention given to each child, or how they are um, rationing their food services, or if anybody is free to bring the child over to the hospital or your dental clinic for treatment, if the child has many children, if there are many children and they tend to influence each other with regard to behavior. So information regarding all of these it does play an important role. Families are they play a huge role in health and disease. because your child varying. In fact, if you remember, we always ask a question when you're taking your case history. For children, you ask how many children, number of siblings. Sometimes we ask the order of children because there is a difference in the disease occurrence prevalence among children. Uh, could you all please mute your mic? Yeah. So even the amount of socialization, your personalities, the fact that if you're living in joint families, there's always care that needs to be taken of dependent adults. The stabilization of your personalities, familial susceptibility to disease, which plays a huge role in transmission of disease over generations. When people come from broken families or families with problems, each of these have a completely different impact on different aspects. It could either be your physical well-being, it could be your mental well-being, but all of these would ultimately conclude in the fact that it could result in some form of uh, disease, or there is loss of well-being in this society. So we're going to move to culture next, and um, culture is what unites people, and culture is what makes us human beings different from animals. Animals also live together, but we consider ourselves as a superior species. It's not only intellect, but the fact that we also are cultured. So it's basically learned behavior, which is socially acquired, and it has certain features. So it's always a product of human societies. Culture is not a part of nature. It's what has been developed by human beings. It's transmitted along generations by different learning processes. It plays an important part in our society. It is what lays down the norms for behavior. You always have people saying this is not a part of our culture, or if you have people trying to adapt and adopt different cultural ideas, or different aspects from different cultures. You always have people saying this is not our culture and this is not ours, or you have to do this because that's our culture. So that's what is laying down norms for what sort of behavior needs to be followed, and it is what dictates an individual's personal and societal survival. So it's basically different beliefs, different behaviors, objects, and other characteristics which are shared by a group of people. There are different types of cultural practices. There are some which are of benefit to the health and which help in prevention of disease. For example, rinsing your mouth thoroughly after eating. There are some cultural practices which have no bearing on health. They are neither beneficial nor are they harmful, like ear piercing or, say, keeping of a bindi. So it's not going to benefit you in any way, neither is it going to harm you. But there are certain practices which are harmful to various degrees of health, and this can range from genital mutilation to mutilation of teeth to various other practices. So, coming to certain myths and taboos, which is most oftenly associated with teeth, and which I'm sure all of us have listened to at some point of time by our patients. The first one is the fact that if you remove your upper teeth, it's going to affect your vision. That there is no a relation between the two. However, there is the idea that this came out from was considered to probably be botched up infraorbital nerve block. However, it's a myth. They say thumb sucking by children leads to forward placement of upper teeth. So it says that up till 2, 3 years, it's considered to be normal behavior exhibited by a child. It's only when the habit does not break as the child ages that it starts resulting in changes in the jaw. They say once a decayed tooth is treated, the dental problem is over. Now, all of us know that that's not true. Professional cleaning, scaling, and removal of tartar loosens the teeth. We all know that once you do that, it's just that the interdental spaces are still open. So once your gingiva grows and covers the tooth completely up to the CH, it's going to be fine. Dental procedures are always painful. No, dental procedures are not always painful. Some people say that believe that dental treatment should be avoided during pregnancy. Well, it also depends on how far along are you pregnant, which trimester you're in, what sort of treatment you're seeking. But it's not an absolute contraindication. Cleaning of teeth with finger and powder is much better than the toothbrush. Now, we all know that for effective plaque control, we need to manually disrupt whatever plaque that's formed on the teeth, and nothing better to do it than a toothbrush. They say charcoal, salt, rice husk, tobacco. All these powders are much better than toothpaste and cleaning teeth. You all know how much of abrasives these contain and what could possibly be the state of the tooth after brushing and all of these. Okay. They say a child never needs cleaning of milk teeth because milk teeth are anyway going to last for a few years. They're going to fall and they're always going to be replaced with permanent teeth. Well, we all know that's not true. Each of these sets of teeth need to be maintained healthy, and we know that caries in deciduous teeth could affect your developing tooth germ and could result in um, changes. They say when the gums bleed, it's better not to brush teeth. No, absolutely not. Some people also believe in keeping aspirin tablets beside a painful tooth, hoping that it would reduce tooth pain. The only thing that you would get if this is done is a chemical burn in your oral cavity, and no, not an option at all. They also believe that consumption of cut brinjals will change the tooth color to black, and that the mouth has no relationship with the rest of the body cells. Now, these are just few. There are so many. If you were to look it up, anything that has not been mentioned here, please feel free to mention it in the chat box. Since they're all- Now, there are impacts of culture on health. How? So it's basically with regard to the concept of etiology and cure, the environment, sanitation, your food habits, your mother and child health, personal hygiene, marriage and sexuality. So how we're going to take a look with regard to the concept of etiology and cure. So we know that from before, when many cultures still believe that diseases are caused by supernatural changes, that is the wrath of God, breach of a taboo. Your past sins is what is giving you grief in this life. The fact that someone's evil eye has fallen on you, which is causing you to, you know, be ill. And of course, witchcraft, which is widely believed by a lot of people today. There are physical causes as well. The effect of weather, the water, the fact that you have impure blood, all of these. So this differs from culture to culture, but all of this can have a significant impact on health because the cause that they believe in would directly related to the sort of treatment they would look for and or they would prefer. And these most of the times they bring these people to the doctors only by the end of it, where uh, the best that can be done is just you know um, rehabilitation at that point of time or palliative care. Your environmental sanitation. Now, many of us, many people who belong to people who are not educated, they do not have an idea that disposal of human excreta in our surroundings and within the vicinity could lead to so many diseases. The disposal of waste, the hazards that could cause. How important is it to have a clean water supply? You go to you go by any river, you'll see animals bathing in the river, you'll see humans bathing in the river, you'll see people washing clothes in the river as well, and so many other people swimming, and the same river water being channeled for drinking. So that again would make a lot of difference, even with regard to your housings. So all of these, uh, there is variation in different cultures, and these would significantly impact health. Coming to food habits, the food habits differ with different cultures. It also differs between different faiths, even between individuals. Nowadays, there's no set uh, cultural norm that we follow. It's more like eat what you want. But many people still believe, many faiths believe in non consumption of beef and pork, and they believe that there are certain food that generate heat in the body, like milk, eggs, fish, jaggery. There are foods that cool, curd, milk, vegetables, lemon. So much so that if you're suffering from a bout of flu, you have a common cold, they'll ask you not to eat curd because your cold can, worsen. And there are many cultures who have wherein there's that people fast. So it could be the fasting type of fasting can vary from just drinking water to consumption of fruits to having a diet restricted with a restricted salt or spice to avoiding certain vegetables to consumption of a single meal a day. So all of these could significantly again impact your health. So these are certain cultural aspects which could have a negative impact on the health of the individual. Coming to mother and child health, so there are certain good uh, norms that are followed, like a prolonged breastfeeding or an oil bath, massaging, and exposure to sun, which is actually beneficial for the mother and for the child. There are some customs which are pretty much unimportant because they neither have a positive effect as such nor have a completely negative effect on the health, like piercing of the ear or nose in certain cultures or the application of oil on the head. But there are some customs which are considered not unhealthy. That is, forbidding certain food like eggs, milk, fish, leafy vegetables during pregnancy in some parts. Now, if this is what is recommended by your doctor for a specific reason, fine. But restricting it because people believe that somebody had some effect due to this or that something else would happen is not an option. Convincing pregnant mothers to deliver at home. The When home deliveries are usually attended by your traditional birth attendants or local guys, and the sanitation is pretty poor. So many times it's there may be complications which cannot be attended to due to a home delivery, and by the time they move to the hospital, it may be too late for the mother or the child. And in many cultures they believe that after the first 3 days of birth the child should not be breastfed, and they are fed with sugar and water for the first 3 days. So that's not that would significantly negatively impact the health. When we talk about personal hygiene, now, with regard to oral hygiene, there are many people who still use twigs of neem tree, ashes, and charcoal. It is neem twigs are what's been used for over a period of time. So many, it has shown that while it's abrasive in nature, it does clean. Whereas ashes and charcoal would cause much more damage. Even eating palm leaves with lime, with or without tobacco. No, we know that this is primarily the cause of smokeless. This is the primary smokeless tobacco which is implicated in oral cancers. Many cultures believe that bathing naked is a taboo. So you're supposed to wear your clothes and bathe, but bathing is to clean. So how can you do that if you're wearing? They also believe in not using a soap to clean the body and using one common cloth by the entire family to clean your body. Many people, in many cultures, they believe women after menstruation must have a purifying bath in order to cleanse yourself. Even though we all know that it's a normal physiological process that happens. In many cultures, people still believe and go to your traditional barber to shave, and there's no concept of sterilization of these instruments, and you have no idea what sort of microorganisms is being transmitted from one person to the other. In India and abroad, the parda system is still prevalent. So this could result in a high incidence of tuberculosis and deprives people from the beneficial effects of the sun rays. Could lead to vitamin D deficiencies. Next one is with regard to marriage and sexuality. So these sexual customs differ. They differ among different social groups, among different religious groups, among different ethnic groups. For example, during menstruation, women are forbidden to enter places of worship, and everybody believes that monogamy is the most universal form of marriage, whereas many societies believe in polygamy and is still prevalent. Many places in India, for example, the among the tolas in Nilgiri hills and in different areas of Uttar Pradesh and Malabar coast, polyandry is prevalent. So there are these changes with regard to so many institutions among different cultures, all of which could significantly negatively impact the health of the individuals. So it's not only your health, it's the health of your family, the health of your the next generations, because that's what is passed on. And uh, this could and identifying these factors and trying to find a scientific explanation and um, coming out and moving ahead of these is what we would require now. Of course, you cannot directly go stand up to them and try to tell someone who very strongly um, believes in their culture. For example, if they were to use charcoal to clean their teeth, so you can't just go and say, "Listen, this is a toothpaste. Stop using charcoal and start using the toothpaste." It's very difficult. Nobody would want to let go of their custom that has been deeply, you know, uh, imprinted and engraved in our system to pick onto something new. So the idea is to slowly introduce balance, not completely ignore their customs, but try to work around it in such a way that we can introduce scientific advancements and scientific methods whilst getting a favorable response from them, holding on to maybe one or two, say, unimportant or cultures that or maintaining those customs which promote health. Moving to social stratification and oral health. Now, these are social classes. They're basically divisions in the society, which are based on your economic and your social status. So, people in the same social class tend to share same levels of wealth, your educational achievement, different job type, and income. You have a six-fold classification, which was given by Warner and Lunt. The first one is your upper class. Then you have the upper middle class, then you have, I'm sorry, that is the middle upper class. You have the upper middle class, the lower middle class, the upper lower class, and the lower class. You also have the upper middle working class, which is commonly followed in the British society. So there are different aspects that they use to identify these classes. Most commonly used ones are is the occupation of the individual. However, there are certain drawbacks. Apart from the individual's occupation, we also can take into consideration their income, their education, and the material possessions, and all of these in order to identify which socioeconomic status they belong to. So in USA, they consider the income and the years of education. In United Kingdom, they consider the occupation area and the neighborhood. However, in India, we have different scales. The most widely used one is the Kupuswami scale. So, in the Kupuswami scale, we take into consideration the occupation of the individual, the education of the individual, and how much he's earning. And together, we give a final score, which is indicative of which socioeconomic strata they belong to. So there are different social classes which are associated with different personality traits. Now, for example, for somebody belonging to a disadvantaged group or say the lower socioeconomic status, it is pretty natural for them to lose their teeth and to say probably have either a complete denture or a partial denture by the time they're 60 years old, because that is considered normal. They they belong to a lower socioeconomic status. They cannot afford good health, good and adequate oral health care. So by the time they're 60, they would have lost most of their teeth and are having prosthesis. But if you were to look at people belonging to, say, the middle class or the upper class, by the time they're 60, because they are able to afford better oral care, by the time they're 60, they have many more, um, completely healthy natural teeth. And if you were to find somebody belonging to one of these classes with um, uh, dentures, then they would be, it wouldn't completely reflect. There would be talks like, oh my God, this person's not looking after their teeth well, and things like that. Whereas for somebody belonging to a lower socioeconomic status, it is considered pretty much normal. So these social factors are not only involved in the etiology of diseases, they're also implicated in the processes by which these problems come to be defined and seen as socially significant. There are various factors which are influenced by your social class. It could be your attitude and expectations. You Many people belonging to the lower socioeconomic status just want, the disease or the pain to be subsided. They generally do not focus much on prevention. People who have the time, people belonging, people who have a better education would understand what you're trying to tell, would understand the concept of uh, prevention, and would probably invest time and energy in prevention of different diseases. It also influences the type of stress, your standard of living, the economic status, and the levels of education. So these were different. These are different social classes, and the general notion on how they react to dental care. However, in the last decade or last 2 decades, there's been a complete change. So these lines that we see between the dental attitude among these classes are quite blurred. However, we'll just stick to the general notion and idea. So the upper middle class basically consists of the professional and business executive groups. They are well educated and live in well maintained homes. So the dental attitude is usually to seek out the expert's advice and follow the advice religiously when it comes to healthcare. They value their teeth and they are interested in preventive dentistry and actively pursue dental care. Why? Because they have the means of achieving it. Dental care uh, is still considered expensive to the general population, and these people are able to afford. You have the lower middle class, which includes your small business owners, minor executives, salesmen. They basically belong to a moralistic group. They have at least a high school education. So the attitude is usually compulsive. They regard dentists as an authority who just fixes teeth, and they try to have a high standard of dental care because it's a necessity to be socially presentable, among people belonging to your status. The upper lower class generally consists of skilled and semi-skilled blue collared workers. Their education is limited, so the importance that they give for oral health, the awareness of oral health and the measures taken to preserve oral health and prevent oral conditions is pretty much minimal. So they tend to acquire artificial dentures at an early age. They're reasonably happy with them, and these people are our main target groups because all your educational efforts regarding dental care, you can target these groups for them. They are most accessible and they offer the best possibility of behavioral and attitudinal changes. And then is the lower class. So these are the underprivileged, disadvantaged class. They're usually unskilled laborers, people without a fixed job, who have limited education, live in slum areas, and there's no stable pattern of life. These uh, people revealed to have the most uh, poor oral health, and they tend to neglect their teeth. They require careful understanding and patience, while receiving care in public health facilities. Because it's not just enough in telling them, come to the hospital and get a treatment done. You need to explain, break it down into simple languages, tell them what is wrong, um, understand what sort of a background they come for, and then educate them and convince them to go ahead and get the treatment. So this was given by Tritat in 1968. It's basically the attitude of people. However, like I said, there are a whole lot of blurry lines now. There's no clear-cut demarcation with the increased information that is available and the fact that we have internet on our fingertips and everybody knows everything. So they tend to come in crowds because they hate to be outnumbered because they feel threatened. So usually, if you were to see anybody coming from a background with no or low education, it's not just one person who comes to the health professional, speaks or tells them their problems and then gets the treatment or whatever. They usually have two, three other people coming along with them because they feel threatened. Sometimes there is contradiction of common sense. However, this could be present, amongst anybody. There are, for example, if they continue to take medicines even after the symptoms have subsided or your course is completed. Many, if you were to ask them the reason, they would tell you that they just want to be sure, that it's never going to come back again. So if you have given your antibiotics for 3 or 5 days and they go ahead and continue taking, can you imagine what would be the result of that? They also have this castration complex, the fact that they feel they are at complete mercy of the health practitioner. So there's a reluctance here. And this reluctance is seen when they prefer to not opt for general anesthesia or sedation during treatment. They do not want to be in complete mercy of another person, especially a health practitioner. The next is your difference in pain threshold and your so any treatment, if you're not doing your treatment properly, then you're a quack. If the patient is experiencing pain, then you're a quack. But the fact is, different people have different pain thresholds, and there is a variation. So the thing is, they have this set idea that any treatment should be painless. So the minute it causes any sort of discomfort, the automatic assumption is that the doctor doesn't know what the doctor is doing. Sorry. They also have this last ditch effort. This is when oral health is not at all given importance. It's just there for you to chew. In fact, many people do not even give that much importance, let alone aesthetics and the fact that it could essentially make a huge difference in the overall well-being. They tend to neglect and turn to dental treatment only as the last resort after everything else has failed. And such people are usually challenges for the dentist because we'll have to salvage them from an almost hopeless situation. Many people feel that dentists or medical professionals, health professionals, have this cold professional attitude. If you were to directly talk to them, they value empathy as an essential characteristic. So it's not just to ask them what is wrong, tell them and ask them to go. But you also need to pay a little more attention, initiate a conversation with them, make them feel comfortable and show that you care about their health and well-being. There's always the fear of the unknown, complications, and this is much more in people who are not aware, even amongst the unprivileged people, they have no idea about the basic oral health, oral care. So even if you were to tell them to make small changes, it would result in a complete fearful situation for them. The fact that whatever medications a health professional were to give does not work. So many people, I think this is something we come across, they call you back and they tell, I've taken the tablet for a day or 2 days, but I've seen no relief. So I think the tablet is not working. Please, can you give me something else? I mean, this is by far the most common thing that I have listened to, and it does not necessarily belong to people who are not educated or people who belong to the lower socioeconomic strata. Even educated people who have the potential of understanding, to whom you would have already explained, still come back with dialogues like this. The fact that they expect everything to happen immediately, but then we know it doesn't work that way. And in case it's taking time, it means there's some fault with the medicine, or with the professional who's giving it, or the doctor is not good enough, and they stop. So this has actually been one of the reasons why there's the development of antibiotic resistance across the world. We always say complete your antibiotic course, irrespective of whether you feel well your first day, or after 3 days, or after how many days, you need to take the entire course. And thanks to people like this, well, this is where we are now. Many people believe that appointments are not that important, because see, underprivileged people are usually they are daily wage workers, they are laborers. So the whole concept of appointment is usually not known to them, and they do not understand the importance. So we as health professionals need to also be a little more patient, be a little more sensitive to the fact that sensitive to their background, from where they are coming, in order to be able to effectively tell them what needs to be done, or educate them and get them to understand the importance of all of these. Yeah, the last one is, ultimately your teeth are gonna, you're gonna lose your teeth, and what is the point in looking after your teeth? So this fatalistic attitude is what is again pretty much common, especially people of the previous generation. Your teeth are anyway going to get lost, so what is the whole point in trying to take care, or trying to uh, maintain, trying to get treatment, all of this. So these people again need to be educated. So it's not just telling them, we also need to pay attention to where they're coming from, and for that we need to understand what is their cultural background, what is their social background, what are those other factors that influence their attitude. So we need to understand all of that in order to be able to provide some sort of a care and some sort of treatment. And of course, there are always traditions. Many families have these deep seated, deep rooted traditions, and this could hinder the provision of care. Like, you have these in many um, cultures, people consider deciduous canines as those that enhance the beauty of the individual and are not to be extracted. So no matter how malaligned your teeth are, they would just not agree for an orthodontic treatment or for extraction. So all of these should not be discredited unless they pose a risk to health, but they need to be explained to the individuals. And so you've got to understand where it's coming from, and the understanding of where it's coming from is basically why we need to know different sociological concepts, social factors, the economic factors, and the entire socioeconomic background of these individuals. So to conclude, today's World Health Day, and the theme that has been given for 2021 is that we have to build a fairer, healthier world for everyone, everywhere. We as dentists always try to look at how we can cure, what curative services we can give, because who wants to break their head about convincing the patient to maintain oral health, to prevent oral disease? None of us have that much time. We all want to be the best in our specialties, and that would mean, not me, but that would mean doing more cases, increasing your patient flow, whereas the focus, I feel, should always be on prevention. Even though all of us today actively focus on preventing diseases, it does not mean people from all the other disciplines are going to go out of jobs. By the time 7.7 billion people in the world actually start to follow your preventive methods and reduce the burden of dental diseases, I think we'd be long dead and gone. So for the fear that you're not going to have patients tomorrow, kindly do not um, overlook the important concept of prevention. So along with this, I feel, in order to build this fairer, healthier world, this field of sociology is what gives us a path in order to engage critically with how to maintain, improve, promote oral health and healthcare for all. So across the world, so this is not just an issue with our country or our society. There are disparities all over the world. There are these inequalities all over the world, and that is not going to disappear. But that does not mean that we can overlook that. So we have, it's always that the most deprived groups have the maximum oral health needs and are and have least access to take up these preventive healthcare services. So, in the WHO definition of health, it very clearly states that, it there is a focus on physical, mental, and social well-being. So, social well-being is a huge concept, and we as oral professionals should stop accepting diseases at face value. No amount of restorations you place in a patient's mouth is actually going to give you that change which is needed to make them lead an individual and healthy life. That does not mean curative services are not required. Of course, that's an integral part of medicine, and that's the whole idea why there are doctors, in order to cure people from diseases. But that's just not it, and we shouldn't draw boundaries just around that. Every mouth we see is a part of one person. That person is a part of a family, who's a part of a society and the world at large. We are potential creators of the foundation of an equal and healthy society. So think sociologically and do not exclude this concept. It takes 2 minutes, but it could make a lot of difference for the individual who's coming to you and for the society at large. Thank you. These are references if any of you want to read. And yeah, thank you. I hope I wasn't too boring. I mean, it is a dry topic, but yes, I hope I've done justice.
Yes, Arya. Do you have any more slides?
No, I'm done. Merci.
All right, great. Okay. So, yeah, that was a very, very comprehensive session, guys, because I think most of our participants here would agree with the fact that I think she put everything into a microcosm of a presentation, mainly because social sciences and dentistry is one of the disciplines by itself, and the paramount importance what it has as we evolve our understanding of dentistry in itself. In fact, just to add a small note here, I think a lot of epidemiology revolves around identifying the basic factors of the disease and all of that. But as we can notice, an epidemiological transition between from communicable to non-communicable diseases, we need to give more importance to the sociological aspect. And that's the reason why we need to update ourselves with a proper social understanding, and dental tissues are all the more going to be affected by this. So thank you so much, Arya, for that fantastic presentation which you put across. I think those were really beautiful slides and wonderfully presented. And quickly, if I could open this up for a Q&A for participants, you can please kindly raise your hand, or you could use the chat box. Any questions, guys? I think we would always, I mean, from an exam point of view, just to add what Arya's presented, there are plenty of short notes and main questions coming from this. So we'd be happy to share that separately. Anything which will require any detailed information, always do let us know. We can put that across for you all. Okay, I think, yeah, Arya, I think we have a question from Dr. Deepak.
Yes. Yeah, okay. What is the difference between social organization, institution, family, and household? Okay, so when you talk about these four terms, family is the smallest unit. Now, your individual is you're an individual. So your immediate family is basically what forms the smallest unit in the society. We are basically social beings, right? We cannot survive alone. The lockdown has clearly showed us that forget surviving alone, we can't even stay indoors. So the family is basically your smallest unit. Now, families, you consider people living together as a family um, when you have a common kitchen. That is what is used in the definition. Households are when there are few families living together, but then um, the way the family functions, you all have your own individual micro units within that. So that's what you refer to as a household. They need not stay under the same roof together. You may not stay, and but the fact is you're all related to each other. That's a house. Institution is probably you can consider as the next level. So institution is where you have say your small organizations, your some say an apartment association. You have your apartment owners association, say some welfare association. So those are smaller. Sorry. So those are your institutions. So institutions, all it there are so many other. There are five institutions basically that are recognized. So it's not only your family; it's also the government based on your education and things like that. Social organization is by far the broadest, and there basically you deal with between groups. So that is the broadest of um, social groups, if we can call them.
All right. So I think that yes, Arya, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right, great. So I think that was very lucidly explained by Arya in terms of the differences. It's very important to know the differences between these sociological terms because we very commonly use them in various different contexts. So please do look it up and use those terms appropriately. Hello, Harshpriya ma'am. Hi. I think
Yeah.
ma'am can hear me. Yes. Okay.
Right.
We have a lot of teachers, Arya, who attended your session today.
Yes. No, very, very nice,
We
Arya.
have Dr. Manjunath,
Thank you.
Dr. Manjunath sir as well from PGI Rohtak.
Yeah.
Sir heads the department in PGI Rohtak, and of course Harshpriya ma'am from AIMS CDR. So you have quite a lot of intelligent students attending your session today. All right. Any more questions, guys? Many of the postgraduates here and the undergraduates, if you would like to quickly share. Yes, Harshpriya ma'am, your comments on today's session, because I know this is a very interesting topic for you. You're keenly following this. Yes.
I hope it was good though. I mean,
It was very nice, Arya, and it was that's what I wrote, that it is very apt for the day even,
yes.
and as as WHO says that we have to make a fairer world.
Well, yes.
And this is one aspect which I think like everybody says, and orthodontists will say that we are different in this way, and so I think this is one topic which is we command over sociology after +2, and
Yes.
we read more about it.
Yeah.
So definitely this should be brushed up on and off, and very well done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you for those kind words, ma'am. Thank you so much. All right. So if you don't have any more questions, guys, I think we can quickly wrap this up session. I'd like to really thank Dr. Arya for doing this session today. And like Priyama mentioned here, I mean, today the World Health Day, the theme being building a fairer and a healthier world. I think social sciences bridges that essential gap between what needs to be done and what is being done right now. So it becomes all the more pertinent in that direction. And I'm sure all of us will take us forward in our own ways and bring out the fullest potential to dental issues and solving the burden of dental diseases by giving that the sociological perspective to all that we do and we flourish. So thank you all so
Yeah.
much. Thank you, Arya, for doing this
Thank you,
session.
sir.
I'm
Thank you
I'm
very
really
much.
sorry for the technical glitch. I mean, it was all from my side because I am still traveling and I'm still stuck in traffic here.
I I think I had a very smooth comfortable experience the site. So
Okay, great.
anyway, don't worry. Yeah.
Okay, great then.
Thank you very much, sir, for this opportunity on this day. Thank you.
All right.
If
Thank
there
you
are
so
any
much.
doubts,
Yeah,
you can always reach out to PhD 101 and they will clarify. Yeah.
surely. Thank you. Thank you, Priya ma'am. Thank you for joining in. See you all, everyone. Wishing everybody again a very happy World Health Day. Stay home, stay connected, and stay healthy, and make the most of it. So we'll see you soon on Sunday with our next rendezvous session, and next Wednesday with the next academic session. See you, everyone. Bye bye. Goodbye and good night. Bye bye.
Good night. Good night.